Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFS Hockey Report. I'm your host, Brock Seguin. With me, as always, we've got Zach Laing. Took a day off yesterday. Zach wasn't feeling 100%, probably still recovering from the Bears game over the weekend. And I was just too busy with the charts. They were late again. But we're back today with a 4-game slate. It is a very interesting 4-game slate, Zach. It is a little bit of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of like this slate quite a bit for it being a 4-gamer. There's some gross spots here. There's some spots that I really like. I kind of like this slate, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like a fun, gross slate. I don't know how else to put it, but yeah, we got 4 games in our hands. Let's get to it. We've got the starting goalies. Jacob Markstrom likely to get the start for the New Jersey Devils. Seattle unconfirmed who gets the start for them, although they've been rotating pretty steadily as of late. And it's Joey Decord's turn in the rotation. So we're projecting to see him, but we should find out during warmups if it's him or Grubauer. Honestly, they're both playing so well, not a huge difference. Grubauer, I guess, got the slightly better numbers. Jonathan Quick gets the start for the New York Rangers. Projected to see James Reimer back between the pipes for the Ottawa Senators. He signed with signed a PTO with the Sens, went to the AHL and had an awful game. Just terrible. And I guess that was kind of enough for the Senators to be like, yep, you're the answer. He had a .786 save percentage. He gave up 6 goals on 28 shots, and they signed him to a contract. But as Tom points out, probably the best possible matchup for Reimer's first start. The Rangers on home ice. Yeah, so book the Reimer shutout tonight if he ends up getting the start. I won't be shocked if Levi Merrillainen gets the nod, although they sent Hunter Shepard down, clearing the way for Reimer to at least dress. But Levi looked pretty decent yesterday. Wasn't overly busy, but I wouldn't be back to him again, but we'll see. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen likely to get the start for the Sabres. Dan Vladar between the pipes for the Philadelphia Flyers. And then the late game, we've got Darcy Kemper versus Akira Schmid. Looks like Aiden Hill could be back as soon as tomorrow. So Schmid will get the start tonight versus the Kings. Zach, do you want game number 1, which is the New Jersey Devils and Seattle Kraken, or game number 2?
I'll take game number 2.
All right, we've got the New Jersey Devils hosting the Seattle Kraken. They are -143 home favorites tonight. I still just can't figure out the Seattle Kraken. The defensive metrics have actually improved a little bit. But like they're just so bad, and they just continue to defy conventional wisdom by having tremendous goaltending. Basically, I think they've won 9 of their last 12 games, and during that stretch, they have the most goals saved above expected in the league. So they've been very fueled by good goaltending. I feel, Zach, you probably feel similarly. Like, I feel like the other shoe's going to drop here eventually, and we're going to see this team bottom out again. The offense has been a little bit better lately, but like, I don't know. These two teams are very difficult to figure out. I do, however, feel like maybe New Jersey's turning a corner. And I say that based off of literally one hockey game. But really big win over the Minnesota Wild in their last game. And the coaching staff basically came out and said it and felt like that was one of their better performances in a while. And maybe something to build off of. And they shuffled the lines up a little bit in that game. They stopped stacking up the top line, and it worked out really well. They were really happy with the top line. They were really happy with Dawson Mercer back on Nico Hischier's wing. And I feel like it might be a building block here for them. And they really, to me, couldn't ask for a better matchup to try to continue to build off of that success than the Seattle Kraken tonight. If Seattle burns me again, I won't be totally surprised. It's happened a lot, but I'll kind of just keep going back to the well here against the Seattle Kraken. It's the highest event game of the night. All 4 lines draw good matchups for the Devils. When you look at the underlying metrics, not great for this first line, but not bad either. Above average for tonight's slate. The second line slightly below average. Then the third line's got okay metrics as well. I think honestly all of them are pretty well in play. What's really interesting in this game is the power play matchups on both sides of the puck. These are the 2 worst penalty kills, or 2 of the worst penalty kills in the league. But they're also very disciplined, so it's going to be interesting to see just how many penalties are taken in this game. But both teams draw pretty good matchups on the power play tonight. The problem is the Devils changed their lines, but they also changed their power play units. And they're pretty messy. You basically have two people from New Jersey 3, and then one from line 1, one from line 2, and then the third our second power play unit is kind of the same. You've got Meyer and Brad there. So to me, I think that it makes it a little bit more difficult to stack around them. But to me, I think it also brings New Jersey 3 into the mix a little bit more too, right? As a bit of a pivot option. Again, matchup for them is very good. They're going to see a lot of Seattle 3, which don't have great defensive metrics. I will say Seattle 2's defensive metrics, when they remove Frederick Gaudreau from the equation, are much improved. Jaden Schwartz, Chandler Stevenson, Eli Tolvanen spent a lot of time together early in the season and played fairly well in comparison to what they did without Jaden Schwartz. So maybe that matchup isn't as much of a smash as it usually is, and maybe the Beniers matchup is the one to really exploit tonight, and that's going to be Jack Hughes. So let's start on the Devils side of things here. Like, I think to me, I've got a tremendous amount of interest in honestly all three of these lines. I still think that, yes, the Hughes line is quite clearly the highest upside line. They're also the most expensive. Then you've got New Jersey too. Like, I really like Heischer, Mercer, mini stacks. I think that's okay. But then this third line as well, man. I mean, at just $8,500, you can full stack them. You can leave Connor Brown off. They are drawing some ownership, but Grisiak and Cody Glass on that top power play unit do feel like really good value plays. So I am very interested in a lot of New Jersey tonight. How about you?
Yeah, I definitely got interest in the Devils here tonight for sure. I mean, it's the Seattle Kraken here. This is a team that has struggled defensively for much of the season, and their metrics continuing to do so. So I really don't have any issue getting to the Devils here tonight. 20% on that top line, probably fair with it being a 4-game slate here. All three of these guys have been really good as of late here. Starting to see Jack Hughes pick up some of that shot volume here as well, which is great to see. Timo Meyer, always a volume hound. A little bit of a lower ceiling from him as of late, but that floor you get at $5,300 is just so rock solid. I'll probably get to a little bit of the second line here too. More interested in the Heischer Mercer mini stack, kind of like the public is, and comfortable leaving Palat off of those. And I think this third line poses a really interesting kind of pivot option here. Not only do they have the correlation on the top power play unit, but Arseny Gritsik's most common defenseman that he's played with this season is Luke Hughes at 210 minutes at 5-on-5. So you've got an interesting way to kind of build around that if you want to as well, going with that sort of power play one mini stack with those three guys. So definitely got some interest there. And admittedly, I mean, everybody knows what I'm about to say here. Jacob Markstrom is in the net for the New Jersey Devils. He is one of the worst goaltenders in the
Never fails
season, and I don't have any issue playing the Seattle Kraken here tonight. In fact, I think I'm actually going to be getting over the field here on Seattle. Not going to be through full stacks or anything like that, but very comfortable with the mini stacks of Matty Beniers, Jordan Eberle, Eli Tolvanen on that second unit, the second line. I think he's a fine play. Chandler Stevenson's game kind of dropped it off a little bit here as of late. Jaden Schwartz coming back from injury. What do we get from him? We're still not sure, but I'd be fine with the mini stack there. And then on that third line, I honestly don't mind the idea of, some Jared McCann one-offs or Vince Dunn mini stacks with him, or mixing in a little bit of Shane right there as well. So I think for me, I'm going to be meeting the field on the Devils top line, probably meeting the field on all three of these lines, maybe a little bit over on that third line, and then getting some more exposure to this Seattle side as well. I think to me, this game has arguably the biggest ceiling, I think, for an offensive explosion here. It's got the highest pace score by a pretty good margin. So that's kind of the way that I'm looking at this one here.
Yeah, and just to go back to the Devils power play for a second, Tom wants to know, are those from post Nemec confirmed in? We don't know for sure where Nemec will slot in on the power play. In his last game, he was on the top power play unit. So Nemec could certainly be back in the top power play unit tonight. There was no power play skate, no power play practice at the morning skate this morning. So we didn't get an indication on what the units would be. It could be Nemec back on this unit. They could continue to shuffle things around. It was in Nemec's last game. It was Nemec with Mercer, Bratt, Heischer, Meyer. So he would most likely be on this unit, and I think that that's the most likely scenario, is that this unit stays together for the most part. This unit probably Dadonov off the top unit, and they have Nemec and Hamilton together. That would be my guess. on how they would roll out these units. I'm not 100% sure that that's going to be the case, but that would be my guess. And I think that it doesn't really matter that, like, obviously it matters who you correlate with, but like when you look at the power play report tonight, like this is a 50-50 split. You're going to see basically both these units used evenly. I would imagine Nemec is on unit 1B there, but again, not confirmed. So I'll get that adjusted on DFO, but it'll be interesting to see where, what unit he does end up on. Because as Tom also points out, he is just $3,200. And, honestly, if we go look at the projections and the defenseman tonight, not a lot of, expensive defenseman, a lot of cheap options tonight. And Dougie Hamilton, about $1,100 more than Nemec, grades out extremely well at $4,300. Looked pretty good after getting back in the lineup, but Nemec grades out as a really nice value option as well. Luke Hughes on the most ownership. So that's something to keep in mind this evening. As for the Kraken, I agree with you, Zach. Like I've loved what I've seen from Jordan Eberle, all season. I've really liked what I've seen from Matty Beniers as of late. The shot volume is really starting to climb for Matty Beniers. He's having some of his best run of the season in the last couple of games. And then the second line, I don't really care for all that much. They just don't do a lot. They do have the best matchup, but the underlying metrics by far the worst. This third line's got the best metrics, and I think my favorite play from the Seattle Kraken tonight is the Jared McCann one-off, maybe Jared McCann, Vince Dunn. I don't mind getting Shane Wright and McCann in a mini stack either. So that line is also super interesting. We spent a lot of time on this game, but when you look at it, it does feel like the best game environment for a potential kind of explosion outside of maybe this Rangers Ottawa game, which we'll get to now. So take it away with the Rangers and the Senators.
Yeah, moving on to the second game of the night here. Obviously, the James Reimer game going to be interesting to say the very least. The Senators are the favorites here in this game, minus 114 on the money line, 3.2 implied total for them, 3.1 for this Rangers side of things here tonight. Taking a look at the line stacks in this one, Ottawa won, grading out as the number one line to target in this game. Looking like they're in a pretty good spot here tonight, just drawing 6.5% ownership, which admittedly feels a little bit low. I think this is a spot we could certainly get over the field on tonight here. The Rangers don't look like they're in a terrible spot, all things considered, despite the fact that they are playing on home ice here. That top line coming in fifth overall in the charts tonight. Drawn some ownership, 12.6%. New York 2 coming in at the 12th best line, and Ottawa 2 coming in as line number 13. Taking a look at the matchups here in this one, Ottawa won, 100% matchup score tonight. This looks to be a great spot for them. They're going to spend 74% of their ice time going up against that Rangers second line, which apparently does not know how to play defense. Absolutely brutal metrics for this Rangers second line here. Miller, Trocheck, Gabe Perreault. This is just some really bad stuff for them. Obviously, JT Miller completely checked out, pulling the old Vancouver Canucks, just like he did when he was out on the West Coast over the last couple of years here. Trocheck and Perreault, they've had some struggles here too this season. I think it's pretty obvious where to kind of get to in this game here. Ottawa 1 just feels like an absolute smash play here. The metrics have been great for these three guys since they've been together here. And I'm comfortably going to be meeting and honestly getting over the field here. I think this is one of the nicest edges that we have here on this slate tonight. So, I don't know if I'm going to get to a whole lot of the other pieces in this game. I'm okay sprinkling in on some of this New York 1. Zibanejad and Panarin have been kind of the engine as of late for this Rangers team offensively. Solid floors with both of those guys as well. So I think that's where most of my interest comes in on this Rangers side of things. I keep finding ways to get to some of these depth pieces on the Senators side of things, but I've found myself continuously more let down than not. Brady Tkachuk, I think he's a fine play at $8,100 there. The matchups are just rough for the second and third line here tonight. So I think I'll probably be coming in a bit under the field there and getting up over the field on Ottawa 1 tonight. The Senators also don't really have much of a power play matchup to speak of here tonight. Grading 6th best on the slate. Brock, how are you kind of feeling about this game?
Yeah, this game is weird, right? Because it does feel like on the surface it could be one that's high scoring with the way that the Rangers have been giving up goals. You'd think that the Rangers would be talented enough offensively to get to James Reimer this evening if he gets the start. I just don't know if we can say that with any real confidence that that's going to be the case for the Rangers, right? It's been pretty ugly. I want to say that they will score on James Reimer tonight. Like, I want to buy in on New York 1 here. I think they're an okay play. They're seeing modest ownership, not crazy. It's high, but not too high. I'll get there just because, like, I think they should be able to get something going at a bare minimum. One of their lines should be able to get something going tonight. In terms of their matchup, it's far from ideal though. So yeah, I don't know if I'll end up over the field or at the field here with New York 1, but I think I want to have some Rangers exposure if James Reimer gets a start. Even if Levi Marilani goes again, like, he's been terrible too. So I think reluctantly I've got to get to some New York tonight, and that top line feels like the most likely outcome here. For Ottawa, yeah, Ottawa 1. I mean, the matchup speaks for itself, right? I feel really, really strong about that, playing Ottawa 1 tonight. I'll have tremendous amounts of leverage if they come in at 6% ownership. It's just no question about it. Ottawa 2, I think, is also an interesting case. They had a really good game last night against the Canucks. Again, not the best opponent, but they had nearly a full expected goal in 12 minutes together. Obviously, Kachuk 8,100 is always going to bring a good floor. Cousins is good. Drew's very cheap. So I'll get to this line at 16,600 as well. Matchup is obviously significantly harder, but the underlying metrics are really good here. It's not like the Rangers are, the stout defensive club. And even when they have been, pretty decent defensively, which they haven't, they're 25th overall. Jonathan Quick's really struggled as of late. His last 5 starts, 0-4-1 with an 813 save percentage. Now, some of that ballooned by that pull against the Bruins, the mercy pull when he gave up 6 on 20 when he actually looked pretty good. But 813 save percentage speaks for itself there. Washington, Utah, Buffalo, Boston, and Seattle were the competition in those games. So not exactly the who's who of offense either. So yeah, pretty interested in the Ottawa side of things tonight, and marginally interested in the Rangers side of things. Anything else you think we missed? Like, are we glossing over New York 2 a little too much? Like, the matchup's pretty good. They grade out 12th. Miller and Trocheck aren't that expensive. Like, I feel like they're an okay play. I guess what I'm saying or trying to get to is, like, will you be at all surprised if the Rangers have a pretty good night against James Reimer? Like, it wouldn't be surprising in the slightest. And on a 4-game slate, I don't want to be left holding the bag because it seems a little bit obvious, even though their offense is a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of my biggest concern is, like, just kind of getting left holding the bag here. I'm going to get some ownership on this Rangers side for sure. Probably meeting the field or being a little bit underneath it. I think one advantage that they do kind of have tonight, like, their power play has been red hot. They're shooting like 26% on the power play over their last 10 games played, 11 goals per hour, well up from the league average of 7.5. The problem is that just offensively, they just can't seem to get it going at 5-on-5. 1.94 goals for per hour over their last 10 games, 2.5 expected goals for. Like, I want to sit here and say that, like, yeah, they're going to absolutely smash James Reimer and the Senators and whatever goaltender it is. But even look at the weighted team rankings, 32nd and 5-on-5 expected goals for, right? Like, it's pretty ugly. Like I said, I'm going to get there. I'm playing Zibanejad and Panarin in our head-to-head today. So, I do have interest in getting there for sure. It just feels to me that, like, this Ottawa Senators side of things is just a much stronger play in this game tonight, even with Reimer potentially getting the start.
It is worth mentioning. Over their last 10 games, the Rangers have been absolutely carried by Panarin and Zibanejad. They have combined they each have 14 points over the last 10 games. Trocheck has 10 as well. Everybody else is 6 points or fewer. So it's just basically been those two and nobody else. I will say Vladislav Gavrikov also looks like a great play. I think he's 3,800 on the blue line. He's going to be one of the more popular defensemen tonight, but also looks quite good. Let's get to Buffalo and Philadelphia. Also, I think this speaks volumes to how far the Rangers have fallen. They are home underdogs against an Ottawa Senators team on a back-to-back with potentially James Reimer between the pipes. Wild stuff. Buffalo and Philadelphia. It is, an interesting game because on paper, you would think it's going to be low scoring. But as Rachel points out, remember, boys, Philadelphia, Buffalo is always high scoring. And that has been the case this year and basically forever. Apparently. So Yeah, this game, I think the last time we talked about it, like, yeah, it's probably gonna be low scoring, but it just kind of never is. And so far this year, 5-2 and 5-3 in the two games that they've gotten together. So each team has won a game in that contest. So or in those meetings. So potential fireworks yet again, I think definitely possible. Both these teams though do grade out in the top 10 in terms of 5v5 expected goals against. Okay, offensively, both teams penalty kills struggling. We talked about it with the Sabres a lot lately. Really have obviously found their stride and are winning lots of hockey games, but it has kind of come at the expense of DFS. They've changed the lines again, and they're kind of back to where they were, and they feel a little bit more clickable now from DFS standpoint. Let's take a look at the line stack rankings here. Struggling. Philadelphia 1 grades us number 1 line to target. Don't know if that's ever happened, but here we are. Then we got Buffalo 2, 1, and 3 grading out all inside the top 10. So the charts really, really like this game. For me, it sure looks like Philadelphia 1 or bust. I guess you could maybe sprinkle in some of that second line, but Denver Barkey coming out of the lineup. Mishkov and Couturier maybe okay. I don't mind Mishkov one-offs. I think is probably the route I'll go. But this top line, man, top line or bust here. Really, really good offensive metrics for them. They've been great. The problem is the matchup is not ideal, but I don't think it matters. They still grade out number 1 overall for a reason. The underlying metrics are super strong. They also have the 3rd best power play advantage of the night, which is weird because when you look at it from a percentage standpoint, it doesn't make any sense at all. But when you take a look at it from an underlying standpoint, the Flyers do generate a lot offensively at 5-5. They just never score. And then the Sabres give up a lot defensively on the penalty kill, but never get scored again. So it's a kind of a weird matchup there. Philadelphia 1 or bust for me, I think, for the most part. And I think I'll certainly be over the ownership here. I think it's a really good spot for them to continue to stay red hot. And they're just way too cheap. And I believe that Dvorak grades out. Yeah, Dvorak grades out as our number 1 value play overall, followed by 4 straight New Jersey Devils. So Christian Dvorak looks like a great play yet again, as he has been for a while now. On the Sabre side of things, top line's got the tougher matchup of the top 9 here. Second and third line have pretty good matchups. And this second line, I remember we were playing a lot of them early in the season, maybe November-ish. And their underlying metrics were outstanding then and still are to this day. They get out 6th best. They are super duper cheap. You've got Zucker, you've got McLeod, you've got Quinn. Typically, Zucker and Quinn mini stacks would be the route that I would go. McLeod's okay if you need a $3,500 cheap center. Take it or leave it for me. Then you got Benson, Thompson, Tuck. Their underlying metrics when they've been together, pretty good. Third line, underlying metrics together, very, pretty good, but scoring a ton doesn't seem entirely sustainable with. But Norris and Doan mini stacks here seem super viable as well. So this is similar to the New Jersey side of things, where I feel like all 3 lines are in a pretty good spot here tonight. I think, as always, the Tage Thompson line's probably got the highest upside, but there's a lot of value to be had on the Sabres roster tonight. And I think that, they're all in pretty good spots. That being said, Dan Vladar has got a soft spot in my heart. I've played him a lot this year. Some success, some not successful. It's just $7,200 tonight. I think he's a pretty good click as well. If these games continue to be high scoring, probably not going to work out. But lots of ownership coming the way of the Buffalo Sabres tonight. I mean, you got Thompson at 19%. You've got Tuck at 8%. The second line's basically 10% owned. The third line's 6% owned. 7% owned. So I think you got a pretty good leverage spot here for Dan Vladar as the cheapest goalie on the slate as well. I think he's going to get some clicks for me for sure. What do you make of this game, Zach?
Yeah, I think you summarized it all up pretty well. There's not a lot that I disagree with you here on. I like the look of the Buffalo Sabres tonight. I think I got a little bit more interest in this second line and this third line than I do the top line. That being said, Tage Tuck mini stacks, 100% viable tonight. And I think Benson throwing him in there a little bit is totally fine too. Ryan McLeod on that second line, he might actually be worthy of a play here. A lot of upside from him as of late. 3 goals and 6 assists in his last 10 games played. Just 14 shots and 5 blocks over that time frame. So really need to see him get on the board offensively to really pay off. But he has been doing that as of late here. So I don't mind him at all. This third line I think is super interesting too with Josh Norris and Josh Doan. The Joshes, I like this spot here for these guys as well. Again, we talk about game environment and it just again, this, what we've seen from these two teams in the past, this feels like a great game environment. This Flyers top line is certainly going to be firing them up. Trevor Zegras, 3 goals and 8 points in 7 games played going up against the Sabres in his career. I got some interest in the second line too. I don't love playing Couturier much whatsoever, but I think pairing him with Michkov is a fine play tonight. Michkov, man, 5 games played against the Sabres so far in his career, 4 goals and 9 points. He has been absolutely stellar against them. So I think he's a player, projecting 9% ownership tonight. Easy to get over the field on him at $4,200. And even Couturier, for a guy who's not put up, a whole lot of points, 7 goals and 28 points in 35 games played. This kind of goes across the board everywhere. Like even guys like Noah Cates and Owen Tippett have had success against the Sabres. And these Sabres guys too, like Jack Quinn, 6 goals, 10 points in 9 games played. Like I'm kind of just going to be playing a little bit of everybody. And I understand it's a little bit of a cop out here, but again, game environment wise, what we've seen from the past, it feels like a game that could certainly open up here on this slate tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it every time these two teams meet, it's high scoring, so it's not surprising, I guess, to see so many of them having success. Okay, we both kind of copped out here on Buffalo. If you had to pick one line, gun to your head to focus on tonight, which one would it be? For me, I think it is back to Buffalo 2 with Zucker and Quinn. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you on that front. The offensive metrics are the strongest for this Sabres side of things here tonight for that second line. They also draw the best matchup. Pretty easy to click on them, I think.
Yeah, and I think it just gives you some freedom with the rest of your lineup, right? Like I feel like they're just as good of a play as kind of these other two Buffalo lines, and it does free you up a little bit. Yeah, to your point about Ryan McLeod, I mean, the offensive numbers are obviously good, just no floor to speak of. He's like Sean Couturier light. If they get on the score sheet, they'd definitely be good plays. It's just a bet you have to be willing to make there. I did kind of gloss over the power plays in this one. 5th best for the Sabres, 3rd best for the Flyers. Let's get to LA and Vegas. We might as well just stay here for a moment. The Vegas Golden Knights have the number 1 power play advantage on the slate. The LA Kings have the worst power play advantage. I guess it doesn't really make sense, but whatever. You get what I'm trying to say. Let's break this one down, Zach.
The power play is bad for the LA Kings tonight.
There you go.
Yeah, interesting game here in the sense that I hate it. Vegas Golden Knights are the favorites here. Minus 120 on the money line, visiting the LA Kings, who come in as plus 109 dogs, 2.8 implied total for them. Taking a look at the line stacks here in this game tonight, this Kings third line, man, Kevin Fiala, Alex Turcotte, and Andrei Kuzmenko are a lot of fun. This is a line that I've been playing quite a bit lately, and I think I'm going to continue to do so here tonight. These 3 guys, for whatever reason, have found a way to click offensively here. The metrics have been really solid for them as of late. 3.1 expected goals for per hour, 15.8 high danger scoring chances, a 92 offensive score. They've been really good and grading out 4th overall in the charts tonight. Drawn 8.2% ownership. Honestly, that's a number that I'm going to be getting above the field on for sure. They're super cheap to get to, right? $12,000 to full stack these 3 guys together. And all 3 of them have been, fairly solid as of late here. Fiala, obviously the big engine on that line. I'm comfortable full stacking. I'm comfortable with the mini stacks here too. You obviously get some correlation with Fiala and Kuzmenko on that top power play unit, even though it's a terrible power play unit. Still a little bit more time where they have the opportunity to score a little bit more together. I think this is a really interesting spot for this third line here today. Tonight, I don't feel so great about the other spots here in this game. Vegas 1 grading out 7th overall. I think they're okay to get to here tonight. Vegas 2, maybe a little bit of interest in them. But boy, with the way these lines are kind of spread out, if you can jump to the line stats, it is really ugly numbers offensively for this Vegas Golden Knights team. Good goal numbers from that top line and that third line, but that is the only thing you can really point to in terms of, being solid spots. That being said, this second line for the Golden Knights is spending 77 or projected to spend 77% of their ice time going up against that LA Kings top line, which has been absolutely awful defensively with Anze Kopitar out of the lineup here. So I guess this is kind of a long-winded way to say I don't really like this game very much, but I think there's some reason to get to some of these spots. LA 3 for me is where I'm going to have some interest for sure, and probably this second line for the Golden Knights is where I got most of my interest on the Vegas side as well. Obviously, building through the power play is certainly something that's going to be viable here on this slate tonight as well. How are you kind of feeling about this one?
Yeah, I don't really know what to do because these aren't really lines that have spent a ton of minutes together outside of Vegas 1. So I'm having a bit of a tricky time putting a lot of stock into these metrics, but they're also in the same breath just impossible to ignore how bad they are. Like when I was building the charts and I was going through line by line for Vegas, it's like, what is happening? Like 1.8 expected goals for the Mitch Marner line. Like what is that? It's downright terrible. It just looks like a super low event game. I will say that this line, granted, it was against the San Jose Sharks the other night, but played 11 minutes together. They led the team there in that regard at 5v5. They had 0.68 expected goals for. And the other line only played 6 minutes together. That was the Eichel line. They had 0.92 expected goals for. So I do think there's an avenue to which the Golden Knights outperform these expected goal numbers based on these wowies. Because to me, they're just far too talented to be this bad. To be honest with you, the other game, Dorofeyev, Marner, and Smith, really good game against the St. Louis Blues. They dominated the puck possession, didn't generate a whole lot, but they dominated the puck possession. So I do think that this is a Kings team or a Golden Knights team that can certainly get there. And for me, I think I'm just going to focus exclusively on the power play and just hope that that's where they get the production done. And if they figure it out a little bit at 5v5, then fine. The problem is, too, these 5v5 metrics are bad. They also run into the best defensive team in terms of the weighted team ratings. Now, obviously no Anze Kopitar, no Corey Perry again. There's somebody else. This means no Trevor Moore. They traded Philip Deneau. So I do think that they're not as good as maybe that number suggests. And obviously this top line's really struggled without Kopitar. So, yeah, I think getting to that Marner line, which their numbers I think should be better than what they actually are in a good matchup is fine. Top line, same thing. So that basically covers up the power play, right? You got Marner, you got, Dorofeyev on that top power play unit. You've also got Stone and Eichel on that top power play unit. So those would be those two lines, those mini stacks that I would probably focus on the most. Get some power play correlation going and hope that the power play finds its way tonight. Because obviously, by far and away, the biggest advantage, in terms of just raw advantages, it's as big as it gets. And they also are projected for the most power play opportunities tonight. So this does look like a good spot for Vegas' power play tonight, and hopefully they can find their way a little bit at 5v5. And then I agree with you here with the Kings. I probably won't get to them a ton. Even like Fiala the first couple games with this new lineup was shooting the puck a ton, playing a ton. Come back down to earth a little bit the last couple games. I just think this Kings offense is so difficult to trust. And it's not like Akira Schmid's been terrible, right? He's been pretty good, actually, his last handful of starts dating back to the end of since Christmas. 887 save percentage in 5 starts. Obviously not great, but he hasn't really given up a ton of goals. Just a 249 goals against average on the season because the Golden Knights are so good defensively. So, I don't really think I'll get to a lot of LA tonight outside of a couple clicks. How about any final thoughts, I guess, from you?
No, I don't think so. Let's move this along.
I hate this game. Move on. Okay, let's get to the defenseman. As I mentioned, there's a lot of quality value options tonight. Dougie Hamilton, Rasmus Ristolainen, even Bowen Byram sticks out really nicely here. Simon Nemec we talked about already. Even Thomas Chabot at 4,400. Samuelson just continues to have a great season. Cam York's a good play. Gavrikov I've already mentioned. I mean, there's just a lot of really, really cheap defensemen that I don't mind clicking on. Even Jordan Spence tonight is a fine play at minimum price. Like, there's a lot of really cheap defensemen. Riker Evans minimum price. Like, there's a lot of value on the blue line tonight that I'm going to get to. Who are your faves?
Yeah, boy, for some of these games in terms of the forward lines looking pretty rough, there's just an absolute gold mine defensively tonight. Mm-hmm. It feels like whatever kind of build you want to do with your defenseman tonight is viable. You've got pay up options that look great in Sanderson and Dahlin. You've got these mid-range guys like Dougie Hamilton, Vince Dunn, Chabot that grade out really well. That mid 3K range looks solid. And there's even some like minimum price punt guys who you can make a good argument for here tonight. So I kind of love it from that front. In terms of my favorites, like I think Dougie Hamilton is a really solid play at $4,300 tonight. He's a guy I've got certainly got a lot of interest in. Brand Clark at $4,500. I like him on this slate too. Matthias Samuelsson just projecting for 6.1% ownership. That's still far too low for him. I think you can make an argument for Hannafin at $5,300 as well, just given the low ownership he's seeing at like 2% right now. So yeah, there's a lot of options for sure. And some of these cheaper guys I mentioned too. I think, Jeremy Lazon at $2,600 is a fine play. Jimmy Alexiak at $2,700. I like him as well. So yeah, there's tons of options on this slate, man. I love the blue line here tonight.
Lozon's a good shout. I've been playing a decent amount of him, and he's been getting just tremendous amounts of ice time. Obviously, now playing with Shea Theodore helps, but he's been over 20 minutes in each of the last 2 games at, what is he, minimum price? 26?
26.
Yeah, 26. Yeah. That's a great shout for sure. Let's get to the goalies tonight. Jacob Markstrom, Zach's boy, grades out as the number 1 projected goalie on the slate. Zach, how do you feel about that?
Terrible.
Okay.
Don't like Markstrom tonight.
Okay, let's get to it. Joey Daccord, $7,400, grading out with the highest own percentage of the night. Again, if Seattle can continue to pull rabbits out of their hats here, Daccord probably going to be a fine play. The goaltending is tough tonight. It is very, 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 very tough, which is why I don't necessarily mind Markstrom tonight at 8K. I feel better about Markstrom, I think, than I do Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, but even Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, I don't mind. Paying up at 8,200 feels rough, but matchup, isn't terrible. But again, those are high scoring games. Daccord, I think he's a decent chalk busting option tonight. I don't mind him, but not great. Quick, I think isn't tough. Not playing James Reimer. Maybe a little bit. I don't know, man. I honestly look at this board and I can't pick one that I feel genuinely confident in. It is an awful night between the pipes, which is why I just went with Dan Vladar in our head-to-head, because he's the cheapest, and I think he is just as likely as anybody on the slate to get a win tonight.
Yeah, it's brutal in terms of the goaltenders tonight. I think for me, my favorite 2 are probably Daccord and UPL. They've been the strongest goaltenders over their last number of games played here. Everybody else, not to be too blunt here, has really had some struggles as of late. Evidently, Markstrom, not good. Giving up 9 goals against the Islanders is insanely embarrassing. Jonathan Quick has had some struggles as of late, thrust into this starting role here now. I think if there was a cheaper guy that I kind of like tonight, I don't mind Darcy Kemper at $4,600.
4,600?
Or sorry,
that would be pretty good.
$7,600. We need sub 5K goaltenders. Damn it. Yeah, I don't feel great about this slate for the goaltenders. I think Kemper is a fine play tonight. Like I said, UPL, Daccord are probably my favorites. But honestly, I'm probably going to be spreading my ownership out quite a bit here tonight, just because of how gross it is. There's no spot that there's no player that really just jumps out as this is a great play on the slate.
Yeah, I think I'll step in a little bit here and play the role of Jacob Markstrom's lawyer, I guess. I don't think he's as bad as Zach says, but hasn't been great, but he's at least put together some strong performances. And I said maybe the last game was a bit of a building block for Jacob Marks, or for the Devils, and Jacob Markstrom, one of his better performances in a while. So hopefully a building block for him as well. And he is 5-2 in his career against the Seattle Kraken. So maybe, but yeah, it is a tough night between the pipes. Let's get to our head-to-head. We talked about it a little bit already. Let's get to our head-to-head. It's back today. Zach, you took 2 points in our last outing, giving you the 12-11 lead on the season. So who you got in your lineup tonight?
Great stuff. Love to see that. Zibanejad and Panarin, talked about them, like them as a mini stack here tonight. Wanted to get some Seattle in the mix. Feel good about Beniers and Eberle, like you were talking about. They're 2 guys who have really led the way offensively as of late. I didn't want to leave any New Jersey off here, so I got a little bit different with this build with Timo Meier, Luke Hughes, and Dougie Hamilton. Power play 1 or potential power play 1 correlation between Meier and Hughes there. Dougie Hamilton looks like a great value play at $4,300. Christian Dvorak one-off at $4,300 looks really solid as well. And then Dan Vladar between the pipes tonight. Not my favorite play here, but was a little bit hamstrung there. And this build does leave $300 on the table as well.
Yeah, I think Tom brings up a good point. When you miss Monday's show, I just got to put a lineup and be like, oh, Zach forgot his again. Another win for Brock. My lineup tonight, I went with the full New Jersey one stack. Hughes, Meyer, Bratt. Also got Dougie in the mix. They correlate well with him on the power play. At least a couple of them do, and they correlate best with them at 5v5 in their last game. So, yeah, empty net head to head. That would be lovely. And then I went with a mini stack of Ottawa 1, man. They got the 100% matchup score. I just didn't see any reason not to get to them with Batherson and Stutzla. They correlate decently with Jordan Spence at 5v5. He's one of my favorite kind of minimum price defensemen tonight, so I got him in the mix here. And then that left me with not a lot of money, so I went with Dvorak as the best value option on the slate up front, and then Dan Vladar, like I mentioned. If you're not going to feel good about the expensive ones, you might as well just play the cheap ones. So that's the route that I went. Let's get to tonight's Hat Trick Pick Challenge. If you want to participate in tonight's Hat Trick Pick Challenge, all you got to do is drop your Hat Trick Pick in the comment section of the video on YouTube. If your player scores a hat trick, we'll get you a $25 gift card to Nation Gear. You can pick up some DFO swag like this hoodie or this hat. I can't really turn my head around like that, but yeah, full DFO gear here for me today. Zach, you won our last head-to-head. Who is your hat trick pick this evening?
We're going with the bread man, Artemi Panarin.
Yeah, not a bad pick. I hope you're wrong since you have him in your head-to-head, but I will go with this feels like just like a random Pavel Dorofeyev hat trick night. He's been pretty quiet as of late. Maybe a hat trick of power play goals. How about that? Is that possible? Has anyone ever done that? Alex Ovechkin has to have, right? I know I'm asking a question that you probably don't have the answer to, but a hat trick of power play goals.
How quickly I can pull it up.
Anyone ever have a hat trick? Okay, while you pull it up, I'm going to thank rotogrinders.com for providing projected ownership for today's show. If you want to participate in today's, wait, I already did that. If you want to get $20 off your first month of Rotogrinders Premium, all you got to do is click the link in the description of the video on YouTube. If you want to get 20% off of Action Network Premium, you can get that in the description as well. Also, if you want to join the DFO DFS Discord, which is where these charts are posted, you can join that in the description as well. Anybody got a hat trick of power play goals that we know of? Still looking?
Fetching results. Yeah, it's actually happened 139 times.
Fair enough.
The last one was actually Leon Draisaitl.
Makes sense.
Against the Calgary Flames on December 23rd. So happened quite recently.
Okay, so the most recent one when we come back tomorrow is going to be tonight, last night. Pavel Dorofeyev. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Smash that like button. Didn't Darren Radish do that this year? A couple of weeks ago?
No, he did not.
One of them must have been on whatever. All right, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Good luck today. Hopefully you return with more money in your bankroll tomorrow than you had tonight. I'm Brock Seguin. We got Zach Laing. Until tomorrow, peace.